So I wrote a book several years ago called WTF, which stands for Why Training Fails. 164 billion a year is spent on training. 70% fails to ever achieve its ROI. Mostly it's because we're not doing these little things that we need to do in order to make a difference and to change things. So, but on the unleashing process, here is basically the simple concept. So first, you must bring awareness. So whenever you are coaching someone, the first step is awareness. We got to first get on the scale. We got to first weigh in. I get what's called a DEXA scan done for my health. DEXA is like a bone density scanner that also kind of shows your like fat and muscle mass. And so I get that done a couple of times a year. I get my blood checked once a quarter to bring awareness. I got to figure out what's really going on before I can obviously change any kind of behavior. So it's extremely important that we get them to be aware. So for example, I know a lot of you guys do secret shopping. A lot of you guys have a technology that's able to do that, but that's a way that you would bring awareness. Another way you would bring awareness is for them just to tell you, hey, so for example, a lot of salespeople, when they're not performing at their desired level, they speak in generalities. So what would an example of generality be? They would say something like, none of the buyers can qualify, or all the buyers prospects I spoke to this in the last week can't qualify, or whatever they say, right? That's a generality. So what we want to do, of course, is get them to be aware of the specifics. And so you would say, okay, well, how many prospects did you work with? Well, I worked with 10. Okay, well, let's go through each of those 10 and let's be specific on which ones could not qualify and why you believe that, right? So that would be awareness. So we have to see things as they are and not worse than they are or even better than they are. We need to see things as they are. And we got to make sure that we're always bringing awareness to anyone we're coaching before any kind of behavioral change or unleashing process begin. The second step there you could see is origin. So origin is getting them to tell you where they learned this step from. So again, if it's a certain way to sell to a cultural buyer or a one-legged buyer or whatever it is, right? Whatever their strategy is, it's to get them to tell you, like, where did you learn how to do this? Like, what's your philosophy on this? Where is this coming from? So it is important, not for a long time, but it is important to kind of backtrack and figure out, again, where did they first learn to do this? So we understand how to get them from where they are now to where they want to go. So there is some value in kind of understanding that. Well, a certain trainer taught me this. Okay, well, if I know a lot about that trainer, then I can understand the philosophy that they were taught by, so I can change how they see it. The third thing there is purge. So whenever you're coaching someone, it's helpful for them to purge. It's helpful for them to vent. It's helpful for them to express like why they're kind of stuck doing it this way, or why they believe so strongly in doing it this way. So for example, if they believe, if they were taught to, let's say you're selling remodeling, if they were taught to, first sit down with them and sit on the couch with them and get to know them personally, and they were taught to do that before going and seeing the actual project needs to be remodeled, the room needs to be remodeled, etc. Then okay, well, I need to figure out, well, who taught you that? Where did that come from? That's the origin. And then I need them to express, like, why do they do it that way? Like, what's their philosophy? Why do they think that's the most effective way to do it versus just get into the bathroom or get into the kitchen or get into like the problem that the customer's trying to solve? So we need to understand that, and they need to be able to defend that and purge that. So that's a hard thing for a lot of us to do, right? Because we think they're being oppositional, but in this case, it's like a controlled oppositional. So I'm like allowing you to kind of express your philosophy on why you go about doing it the way you go about doing it. So if you're not sold on this, just kind of think of it like this: is that that if you were to remodel your house, then step one is you have to purge the things that you need to clear out the space. So if you were to kind of change a kitchen, well, first you got to like get all the old stuff out before you can kind of bring in new hardware or new kitchen or new fixtures. Like you have to kind of like purge the stuff out before you can do anything new. And so you can't you can't really truly have lasting behavioral change unless they at least get an opportunity to kind of vent or purge why they do it the way they do it. And then that final step there in the unleashing process is the strategy. And it's now that you've purged, well, now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to give you some new tools, some new resources in order to do it the right way. You can see here, this entire process is surrounded by the concept of gratitude. So gratitude is the unyielding fuel for courage. Without us having gratitude when we coach a person and being grateful that we're taking them through this cycle, we will not have the endurance to get them through it. So if you don't have gratitude, then you don't really care about where they learned this concept from. If you don't have gratitude, then you're definitely not going to have the endurance to let them vent. So gratitude really does increase your endurance. It increases it helps you see things differently for them to get them through this unleashing process and be able to have gravitas and kind of stoicism to take them through this. So that is the process.